Welcome to the Game Disc, where every week we wrap up all the biggest gaming news from last week, tell you what to expect this week, and decide the top 100 games of all time. I'm your host, Simon Esty, and I'm joined by...
Noah Esty.
And today we're going to be talking about all the new games announced at the Triple I Initiative Showcase, but it doesn't really matter because people are only playing old games anyway. Then we're going to decide if Megaman X is one of the top 100 games of all time. We will get to all of that, but first, Noah, I have a question for you.
What's up?
Okay, so you, for a long time, would quote a YouTube video where some kid says, "I'm the Joker, baby."
Yes.
And I watched that for the first time last week.
Yes.
Because of a certain trailer that was released. And I was under the impression that this was some like weird cringe video. I didn't think it is the Joker baby kid cringe.
So I think it's one of those things where it's like, at first it was cringe. So it was, you gotta remember, like, obviously he's taking a lot of inspiration from Heath Ledger's Joker performance, and then he's uploading it. And so I think at the time it was funny. Maybe not cringe, but just one of those things that you get to laugh at because that's the internet. But I think over time, people are just like, it's just a fun thing to say, saying like, "I'm the Joker, baby." It's just fun. So I would say it went from not necessarily cringe, but like laughing at this person because it's like, oh, haha, bad acting, to, like, you killed the man, but the idea still lives on. And
Okay. I just think, I don't know. I watched it. And I was like, I mean, yeah, it's not great, but like, in terms of like, if I were to see this kid at night saying that, it'd probably be pretty creepy. I don't know. I think that he's better than
I
Joaquin
think
Phoenix Joker. That movie was more cringy to me, but
you also need to think, ever since 2016, like, cringe has just been on a constant rise. Like, the bar is being raised every single day. It's like watching it's like watching an old sitcom. Like, the humor may have been like funny at the time, but not anymore. That's what a lot of cringe is like. It's like, oh, this was cringy back then, whereas now it's like, yeah, I mean,
that's fair. And I think that's why I was surprised, because I have like a very low tolerance for cringe, but cool.
But
well,
I think that yeah, just now it's like the "I'm the Joker, baby" line has, what's the word, like, evolved past that video to now it's just like,
no, it's just a thing. Cool.
Exactly.
Other than that, how are you doing? Besides my questions about the Joker baby kid.
No, it's I'm all right. It's been a rough week. A couple rough things have happened since our last recording. I don't want to get too into it just because I know that, like, there's a lot of people on the internet, easy to just talk about their problems, and I know that's not what people are coming here for. They're coming here to hear us talk about some games, so that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing pretty well. I bought a Sonic the Hedgehog Pez dispenser.
Yeah, sorry I forgot to ask.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to talk about my Sonic the Hedgehog Pez dispenser, but
okay, well, go ahead. Tell us about your Sonic the Hedgehog Pez dispenser.
Well, it's a Pez dispenser that's like, you know how Pez dispensers have characters on them?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one has Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, okay. Oh, what color is it? Is the, like, base of the Pez dispenser?
It's blue, like
okay.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, okay. That was going to be my next question, actually.
Yeah.
What color is Sonic Pez?
And if anybody's a big Sonic the Hedgehog and or Pez fan, there is also a Tails one, but the Hobby Lobby I was at was sold out of Knuckles, because of course Knuckles is the hard to find Pez dispenser.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you one thing. Trying to find a Knuckles Pez dispenser, that's something that doesn't make you chuckle.
No, it does not. It makes you cry. Which we got some news that might make people who work in the video game industry cry because it
They're
came
out of the
out.
Tails one too.
Yeah, they're out of the Tails one too. Uh, this is a news story that came out. I think it wasn't last week, which again, I guess I didn't say this, but sorry we didn't do an episode last week. It was just kind of a crazy week. My fiance was sick, so I couldn't do it. But we're back this week.
You actually need to reframe that. Sorry that you did not do an episode last week.
You did an episode solo, and maybe I'll upload it as a fun joke. We'll see.
It was not good.
Yeah, that's why I didn't upload it. Anyway, back to the news story. There was a report that came out 2 weeks ago now that found 60% of playtime in 2023 went to games that were 6 years or older. It found that even though the game market grew by roughly 2.6%, according to Newzoo, games like Grand Theft Auto 5, Minecraft, Fortnite, and Apex Legends dominated the actual time spent playing. Only 8% of playtime was spent on non-annual sequels such as Baldur's Gate 3 and or Alan Wake. So this is I kind of had heard about this report from a couple of different sources. It is concerning, to say the least, because time is money, and if people are playing your game religiously, they're more likely to put money in. And if people are only playing old games, what's the point of developing new games is kind of the fear. So, Noah, do you want to talk about this while I try to stifle a burp from drinking a soda?
Yeah, you go ahead. You have fun with that, and I'll talk to the audience. You.
Thanks.
All right. Well, that was a cool cough, but regardless,
we're off to a great start this week. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, it's like, yeah. So we talked about Noah. How are you doing today? Not good. Oh, why is that? I'm not gonna say. What about you, Simon? Oh, well, I have this Pez dispenser, and then we talked about more about the Pez dispenser than any other topic so far. But oh, yeah, it's fun times at the Game Disc podcast, and so I think that this is a really important news article because something that we talk about every week, every other week is a story. It seems to revolve around live service games or something of the kind. And I think that it's really easy to forget just how big of a deal they are when you're deep in like the gaming community like we are. So when I first saw this and saw it was like games over 6 years old are what's taking up a majority of players' time, I was like, oh, are people really playing like that many old games? And I completely forgot like Fortnite, GTA, Minecraft, all of the big live service games are over 6 years old. So it's something that is. This is why so many companies are trying to focus on live service games, because a majority of people that play games are playing these. A lot of the hardcore gamers, yeah, they play a lot of games like Baldur's Gate, a lot of the sequels, but the money isn't really in the hardcore all the time. A lot of times it's getting a chunk of that casual player base to spend money. So I think that this is the reason why we're seeing so many people, or we're seeing so many companies trying to make live service games, because 60% of playtime, that is a lot.
Yeah, and you kind of bring up a good point where I think it was 2 weeks ago we talked about how the game industry wasn't growing a whole lot. Well, we talk about it pretty much every week.
Yeah.
But and I think that you're right. If game companies want to increase revenue, they do have to appeal to people who aren't the hardcore gamers. And hopefully when those people pick up an Xbox or a PlayStation to play Fortnite or one of those other live service games, they also do pick up The Last of Us or Halo or whatever, but they're not always going to. And that's kind of where this problem ends or rises. But I think it's also, you talked about how this is why these big companies want to make a live service game, and you're right. But the problem is, like you said, or like this report said, these games are older than 6 years old. The people have already found their game. So how is your game going to break in and break that habit of playing GTA 5 and spending however much every month on GTA 5 to move over to something else? Obviously, the GTA 6 is like a little bit of a different example because a lot of those people will move over to GTA 6. But for something like Fortnite, which will probably really never get a sequel, how do you get people to go from Fortnite over to Foam Stars or whatever? And that's the problem we're seeing, and that's why these companies want these live service games, because they do bring in revenue, but the people who are the audience for live service games have already found their Fortnites and Destinies, and that's why something like Helldivers was such a weird, I guess, exception, because it did break through because it was different and it did everything really well. But now it's okay. Now this field is just a little bit more crowded, so the next live service game is going to have a harder time to find an audience, right? There's only so many people willing to play.
Yeah, and there definitely are live service games that are under Hey Cat. There definitely are live service games. Hi Cat. There definitely are live service games that are under 6 years old that have a big community. Apex Legends was released 5 years ago. Valorant was released. Is that cat okay?
Yeah, he's fine. He's just mad that I wasn't petting him, but now I'm petting him, so he's fine.
Oh man, if he's mad now, wait until you tell him they didn't have the Knuckles Pez dispenser.
No, I told him that last night. He was inconsolable.
Oh, poor guy. But so there definitely are still live service games coming out that make a lot of money, but they are still a huge risk. And it's one of those things where it's like, my take on this is I think it makes sense for companies to want this and to explore that option. But I feel like making single player games are still a more safe option, because while it is a smaller market, 8% of total like audiences playing it, that 8% is the one that's more likely to try new games. So it's like a lot of the 60%, usually it's like, oh, my friend plays this game, or like a streamer that I watch plays this game, so I'll play it. And then they go ahead and that's why they do it. Whereas like those single player games, they're the ones more likely to get people to be like, well, I'll go ahead and I'll try it out. So I think that it definitely is one of those things where if I think that there's just a lot of money being spent, and I feel like, in all honesty, if you're going to spend a massive amount of money on a game, it's probably a little better to make it a single player one, because there is a very good chance that people are more willing to try that single player game. Whereas a live service game, people may try it for like a week or a month and then stop. So it's like, yeah, we go ahead, and then if this game does surprisingly well, like Helldivers, then it's like, okay, let's up the budget and let's start getting really intense and crazy. And then by the next season pass, that's the big thing. So then more people would go, and then yeah, you can just kind of go from there. But yeah, there have been some very, very high profile failures for games lately, and pretty much every single one of them as of late has been a live service game.
Yeah, but do you think that is just because live service games are more common? Because like we could also look at last year, something like Forspoken was for which and Immortals of Avium were games that were single player, and I'm not saying that, I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I think the problems with live service games are kind of emblematic of the entire industry, where they're just too expensive to make. So if they're a flop, movie studios release flops all the time.
Yeah,
but it's okay because they're not putting everything they have. Like, imagine if Sony put everything they had into Madam Web. They'd be in trouble when that game came out, or when that movie came out. But game companies don't really operate that way. They do kind of throw everything at these games, and if a game flops, it is enough to kill a studio, as like we saw with Immortals of Avium. And all that just kind of to say, I don't know what the solution is. I think that I think you are right. I think single player games in general could be a safer bet, because if you could get something like The Last of Us, which maybe the game isn't making bank, but then you get an HBO show and that brings in some revenue and merchandising and things like that. Obviously, that doesn't really help you if you're making a Star Wars game or a Spider-Man game, but if you're creating a new IP, a single player can be the way to go. But again, it's chasing that rabbit or that stick where, well, yeah, but we can only if we make a new single player game, we're only selling it once for $70. Whereas if we are making a new live service game, we're making, money every month. So,
yeah.
And again, I don't know what the solution is, but
although sometimes if your live service games fails, then you wish that you made that $70 instead of the free download.
Yeah, looking at you, Suicide Squad. But overall, I think the solution is to just make smaller games, which is why it's a good thing that a bunch of indie studios got together and held a new showcase called the Triple I Initiative. This was an initiative or showcase that was roughly 45 minutes last Wednesday, and it was just a bunch of games from all these indie studios. So there was a lot of roguelites, which was kind of funny because they actually said, like, at one point during the live stream, they said something like, there's only a few more roguelikes, we promise, or something like that. So it was like, they kind of knew. But I watched the whole thing. I thought it was pretty good. I'm not super into indie games, but I'd like to be. And so it was kind of cool to just see a lot of kind of different newer games that are out there that I'm sure at the end of the year people will be talking a ton about. For me, kind of the big games that were announced were Slay the Spire 2, obviously a sequel to Slay the Spire, Rakugaki, which was kind of this cool, like, spray paint graffiti platformer type of thing, and the Rogue Prince of Persia, which was a Prince of Persia roguelite with this really cool art style. I'm guessing you didn't watch this at all.
No, I didn't. It's, as I mentioned before, it was a little bit of a busy week for me last week, and I didn't. So no, unfortunately, I'm familiar with a lot of the announcements and the games, but I did not watch the stream fully.
Was there anything that you saw kind of from the announcements and streams that you thought looked cool or that you're interested in? Or
no, not really. I mean, as I mentioned before, I'm not a big indie fan as well, and there were a lot of roguelites, which is a genre I'm also just not super into. I don't hate it and I'm not against it, but I feel like most games don't really utilize the genre to its full potential. Loved Hades because it felt like they really did, but most of them are just kind of like, eh. It's like, okay. So
yeah,
for that reason, I didn't watch it, and nothing really stuck out from what I saw.
That's fair. Yeah, like I said, I watched it. I liked it. I'm hoping that this grows into something. Maybe next year they get some bigger indie studios. Maybe we see like a Mina the Hollower type of game there, and something like this just continues to grow. Because like I've been saying the past couple of weeks, I think we're going to be all playing a lot more indie games as the AAA games get more and more expensive. But AAA games are still coming out, as Ubisoft had kind of a blowout of Star Wars Outlaws news. So first, they did release a story trailer, which had the release date, which is coming out August 30th. The game seems pretty cool. At least the story does. I like the idea of it, kind of the rogue outlaw as opposed to normal Jedi type stuff. A lot of people were worried they would kind of lean into maybe some of the more Force type stuff, but it really seems like it doesn't. It seems like this is very much just, nope, you are just a Han Solo type rogue living in a world post Empire but before Return of the Jedi. So I think that'll be really cool. Did you watch the trailer at all?
Yeah, I watched some of it. I'm really not a big Star Wars fan, so my take on this game has pretty much been, it looks interesting, but by the end of the day, it is a Ubisoft game, and Ubisoft has not gained my trust they've lost my trust a very, very long time ago, and even though this game looks cool and I'm interested, it is one that I'm still weary about. So I'm not like, oh yeah, this game's going to be great. It's just, Okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah, and I think that that's like a very common sentiment about this game. I will
Hmm.
say I'm I think that it's aware of Ubisoft's faults and maybe
Hmm.
trying to overcome those. This is made by the developers of The Division, which I think is one of Ubisoft's stronger titles in recent years. Um, on top of that, kind of another blowout Ubisoft did about this game is it was on the cover of Game Informer, and they
Hmm.
kind of broke down how the gameplay will work, and it does sound different from just find this tower, activate it, fill in all these icons on a map. It seems like it has a really cool um, like faction. Sorry, I just clicked a button. It has a really cool like
All right.
faction system where as you do missions for certain factions, their trust in you will increase, and but sometimes to the detriment of like other factions. So it becomes this balancing act where you want to be in everybody's good graces,
Hmm.
but sometimes they'll have like competing odds and you kind of have to pick a side between the four. But one of the examples they gave was one of the syndicates wanted you to steal data from the other one. And if you could do it stealthily,
Yeah.
and they don't see you, then your reputation with them won't actually go down because they won't know that it was you who stole their
Hmm.
data. But if you get caught, you can still complete the mission, but they'll know it's you, and now they trust you less. So you might not get
Yeah.
missions because they don't trust you to enact them out. And also, if you go near their base, they either won't let you in or attack you. So I think that there's some cool ideas
Hmm.
that make this more than just another Assassin's Creed climb a tower to fill in the map type of game.
Yeah. And I think that that is true as well, but as we saw with like the last really big Ubisoft release, Watch Dogs 1, there are oftentimes some really good ideas, but maybe the execution of those ideas don't live to the up to the interest that it brings forward.
Yeah, you're right. And we're already seeing kind of some Ubisoft shenanigans because alongside the release date and a bunch of details about the systems in the game, they did also announce the prices. Because, yes, this game will have 3 editions. The normal standard edition is going to be $69.99 as expected.
Yep.
The game will also include a gold edition, which is $110 and includes 3 days of early access, a season pass with 2 post-launch DLC and 1 launch day DLC, as well as a cosmetic pack. And then there is an Ultimate Edition, which is $130 and includes all the contents of the Gold Edition, plus 2 additional cosmetics packs and an art book. And people are pretty mad, which, I mean, I get it. Like, I think that one of the things that really kind of people are mad about is that one of the missions in the more expensive edition is Jabba's. It's like a mission in Jabba's
Hmm.
palace,
Hmm.
which I think people are kind of like, well, they put that one behind the paywall because people will want it, and
Yeah.
that's true to an extent.
Hmm.
And I mean, again, it's we've talked about how these AAA games are just so expensive to make. Like,
Yeah.
this is kind of what happens. Like, and if you're, and I'm not saying you should buy this game. It's an Ubisoft game. It comes out in
Yeah.
August. By Black Friday, it's probably going to be 50% off. Just
Hmm.
wait. Just if you don't want to pay $110, don't. Just wait a couple of months and get the whole game for half that.
Or if you'd like, you can pay $130 to get the big version.
There you go.
No.
No, and but at the same time, if somebody is really excited and they think that that's worth their money,
Yeah.
I will not be buying any sort of crazy edition of this game. I'm excited. I'm optimistic about this game.
Hmm.
There's a decent chance I will buy it on launch day, but I may also just wait till Black Friday. I'll see kind of how the reviews are, and that's kind of what I think everybody should do. Just wait for reviews, and if this is some god tier game and you want to get the $110 version, then go for it. Or even if this is
Yeah.
a terrible game and you still
Yeah.
want to get the gold tier, then do it. I mean, it's your
And
money. Do whatever you want with it.
so the big thing that I'm thinking about is will will you be allowed to upgrade the version if you buy
That's
the base
true.
version? Will you be allowed to upgrade? Because if you are not able to, I think that is a major that is a really bad idea on Ubisoft's part because a lot of people then would be like because this is by the end of the day this is an unproven game. This
Yeah.
isn't a sequel or anything. nobody's played this game before, so there's not a whole lot of incentive to buy the really nice, expensive collector's edition. Which, by the way, $130 for a collector's edition is not bad if you're getting something physical. I believe the last collector's edition you got was Dark Knight, or was Batman Arkham Knight, which came with like a really cool Batman statue. It's like, okay, that makes sense.
But that was also like $100.
Oh yeah, so it's even so this is even worse than that.
But yeah, but I feel like collector's editions have like ballooned in. They're the cost of just special editions. Like I bought Final Fantasy 16 collector's edition, which all it came with was like a steelbook and I think like a map. And then I bought Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth collector's edition, which also came with a steelbook, but it also came with like a CD and an art book. And I'm like, I feel like that's a better deal. But these are the same games. This is the same franchise, and it's not even like consistent with what they're offering. Special editions in gaming are just weird.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, I feel like everybody likes special editions when you get something physical, something tangible, and I think this is why so many people are angry, because it's almost the cost of 2 next-gen games. Not even, it's more than 2 previous-gen games. It's almost the cost of 2 next-gen games. You're getting a digital art book, whereas people would prefer
I never understood the appeal of that.
Yeah, I don't think there is the appeal of a digital art book.
That's literally let me go turn on my PlayStation so I could look at pictures of R2-D2 and Han Solo and Carbonite. Like it's one thing to get like an art book that you can flip through, but
it's one of those things where it's like it's of course the hey cat. It's like the monetization of games. Hey buddy. It's insane how in the past those digital art books would just be in the game. Like you do something, it's like, hey, you've unlocked some concept art, and then you can view it. Now they're charging an extra $60 for it. Like, I don't think anybody likes digital art books, but my major takeaway though is that if they are allowing you to upgrade at any point, I'm guessing very, very early on in the game's life, the Ultimate Edition's price will drop drastically. So if somebody's like, I'm not going to pay $60 extra just for like useless stuff, and then they buy the normal version, 2 weeks later they're like, hey, it's 50% off, so now you only need to pay $30 for like this extra mission and the digital art book, and that might convince some people, but my biggest takeaway is it dumb? Yeah, I think so. I don't think they're offering nearly enough. Am I angry about it? Not really. It's just because it's not something like what Blizzard did with Diablo 4, where it was kind of felt like a rug pull. They're being completely upfront about it, so it's just kind of like alright, I'm not going to buy it then. And I think that's the thing. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not really going to try to defend it. I'm just going to be like, yeah, that's a lot of money. I'm not interested. And if the game fails, then they have only themselves to blame.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much a good way to put it.
Maybe we should have lowered the price just a tad bit. Maybe there wasn't that much demand for it.
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it. Like, it's not worth getting all up in a tizzy. If people want to spend their money on it, cool. And maybe, you know what? And if they buy the $110 version and in 2 months when it's 50% off and they feel kind of dumb, then that's their punishment. So, and hopefully they learn their lesson for the next time. But in the meantime, just...
And another thing, though...
Just buy what you want to buy.
One last thing to consider. They're only offering digital things. So it's not like Ubisoft is at a major risk for people choosing to buy the $70 version than the $130 version. And so I think that's another thing to consider. They're not at a huge financial risk. Maybe some people might not buy the game on principle alone, which I think is fair, but I feel like historically that's been a small group of people. Usually if somebody really wants something, that doesn't affect sales too much. Even a lot of people were like, I'm done. During the Blizzard controversy, they were like, after Diablo 2 remake comes out, I'm done with Blizzard. It's like, so you're done with them once they stop making things you're interested in.
Yeah, it's easy
But
to
but
it's easy to
with
quit
that
if
being
you're already off the train.
yeah, but with that being said, I probably won't buy it. End up buying this game just because it's Ubisoft and I don't like their games. So
That's
yeah,
totally fine. I think that that's going to be the biggest thing this game has to go against. Price is
that's
not. I think that price is a yeah. Like you said, I think a lot of people are mad about it because it's Ubisoft, and if Nintendo or somebody did it, they'd probably be a lot more okay with it. But we'll see. I mean, hopefully the game's good. I hope it does well, and
yeah.
I'm cautiously optimistic for it. That's all I'm going to say about it. All right. Like I said, this was the cover story of Game Informer, but Game Informer has some other cool news. Not a whole lot to say about it, but I wanted to get it out there. Game Informer has kind of been decoupled from GameStop's Power Up Pro. Previously, the only way to get a print membership was to sign up for an annual pass of GameStop's Game Power Up Pro
Yep.
rewards, which has gotten worse in value as well as being more expensive. So now it is officially a standalone service. You can sign up for a 1-year subscription for $19.91 to commemorate the year Game Informer first started coming out. That gets you 10 issues across a year, which I think is really cool. I have a subscription to Game Informer because I am a Power Up Rewards member, and I actually thought about renewing my membership with GameStop just because I like getting that magazine. And now I don't have to. Now I can cancel GameStop and just sign up for Game Informer and show GameStop, hey, I don't really care about you, but I like that magazine you guys own.
Yeah, and for me, I don't really care about magazine. Print media has been dead for a while. So I'm really curious about how this is going to work out, because it seems like the
Yeah, I'm
idea
scared.
behind... Yeah, I feel like the idea behind putting it with the rewards program was, this is a way that could get some people interested in our rewards program, but it's also something that we can do with this magazine to, like, it allows us to do something with it instead of just
Shutting it down or moving
exactly.
online only.
And
Yeah.
so it's a thing where it's like, all right, let's see where it turns out, but historically speaking, I do not think it's going to turn out well.
Yeah, I'm worried. I hope I'm proved wrong. I really I miss magazines. I loved getting game like Nintendo Power and Game Pro and Game Informer, and I love that feeling of getting a new Game Informer in the mail. And I hope that this is successful. I hope that this shows there is an audience for print magazines, but I am worried that it's hard to justify $20 on something that you can go online and see for free.
I feel like, in all honesty, maybe there actually is an audience for print media, because video game journalists' reputation is at an all-time low, and part of it's like their opinion pieces people disagree with. Part of it is there's a million articles that are just guides on random game, like here's where all the towns are in Dragon's Dogma 2. And the cool thing about a magazine is they don't really have that. They, correct me if I'm wrong, but GamePro, they don't even do guides anymore. Like, I know that was the big thing for Nintendo Power.
Game Informer? No, yeah.
No, sorry.
No, it's just I mean, yeah, so
interviews,
it's basically
correct?
No, it's basically they always do like a letters column. They usually have like some kind of like buyer's guide, which is random. They'll then do like a couple of kind of shorter stories about anything. Sometimes it's an interview with somebody. Sometimes it's just some event. Sometimes it's like I think in the last issue it was like about like a Street Fighter tournament. And then they usually have the cover story, which is quite a few pages dedicated to some random game. Then they have like 2 more stories that are pretty equal in size about a specific game. Then they do previews, which are just like 1 page about an upcoming game, and then reviews, and then kind of a final story. So there's no like walkthroughs or guides or anything like that. It is pretty much just, and I think that you kind of bring up a good point. It is just gaming news. There's no kind of really fluff. So I think that maybe it'll find an audience that way.
Yeah, I'm hoping it does. I feel like a lot of people, like I said, there's a lot of people that don't like video game journalists, but I think that instead of trying to find like non.
Well, but I think that if you're somebody who doesn't like video game journalists, you're not gonna pick up Game Informer and be like, "Oh, this
Yeah,
is
well,
so
that's
much
what I
better."
was.
It's the same thing. Like
It's
it's
well, I was
and
thinking
if you're
like usually you would just go to a YouTuber instead,
yeah, you go to
and
some weirdo YouTuber who is a games journalist without any sort of credentials or
yeah,
anything besides
where
just saying things that you agree with, which are
yeah,
usually bad
and I think
opinions.
that, and I mean, I get some of them, but I feel like a lot of people that really don't like them, they're really not interested in just give me the straight up news, give me just the facts, and because if so, then something like Game Informer would be doing very well.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
usually they said something that they
yeah,
didn't like.
which
But
yeah, I do find it really interesting how Video Game Donkey, he made a video making fun of game journalists, and then back when that opinion was unpopular, and then once that opinion was popular, he made a video defending them. But I mean, that's just Donkey. It seems like he looks at what's popular. Okay, I'm gonna take the opposite opinion now.
yeah, he plays devil's advocate because it gets some
Yeah,
clicks or whatever. But
and
and
Video
again,
Game
that's
Donkey is great. I don't think it's about clicks. I think it's just that's his sense of
well,
humor.
if
I mean,
he's, I mean, it might be, but if
Simon,
but
we're
he's
on a
also,
podcast talking good things about video game journalists. We're playing devil's advocate right now.
but what I'm saying, I mean, I don't. I guess I don't know. I don't think of it. I'm not thinking of it that way. I think if I don't know. I just the idea of getting mad at journalists is just wild to me. Like that's like being like I don't like these doctors, which I
Well,
guess
that's
people are
actually a
doing
common.
too. Yeah,
That's what
which
I was
people are
about to
doing
say.
too.
That's a
So
common opinion too.
I guess that people
Did
are
you?
just
It was like that
dumb.
that thing where it was like, well, your average furry artist is more competent than your average doctor. Have you
I
seen
don't
that
want to. I
thing?
no. I'm not.
You? Oh
I'm
my
done talking
god!
about
You
this.
need to
No,
see
I'm
this.
not. I'm done with this. I'm nope.
Yeah.
I'm done talking about this conversation. All I'm gonna say is maybe maybe you don't judge people by their occupation unless they're into something really sleazy. All right, Noah. I don't want to talk
Like
about this anymore. Give us our
podcasting.
give us our feel good story.
All right, so our feel good story. So this is actually an update to something that we talked about previously, and that is the Super Mario Maker. So in the past, there was a level called Trimming the Hedge, and it was the last level that Team 0%, the group of individuals that were dedicating themselves to clear every Super Mario Maker level before the Wii U and 3DS servers were closed down. This was the one level they couldn't beat, and it came out by the creator of the level that it was actually completed using a tool assisted speedrun. So, for those of you who don't know, in order for Super Mario Maker to have a level be published, the creator has to complete it. They used a tool assisted speedrun, and it was done to one, say there were tools available for Super Mario Maker, and two, to showcase a problem with Nintendo's detection software. So, for that reason, Team 0% was like, okay, no worries. I guess if this wasn't a valid level, we don't need to beat it. And as a result, we have technically 100%ed every level in Mario Maker. With that being said, they actually went back and decided to complete it. So, Team 0% actually completed 101% of levels in Super Mario Maker. They realized that even though they didn't need to do this level, they want to still do it. And I remember you, Simon, when I reported on this originally that they weren't doing it, you were disappointed, but now you know that they were able to complete it legitimately with a person. So how do you feel?
I fucking love this
Yeah.
because this is the thing I love about this is a true like John Henry story, like man
Mhm.
versus the machine. where the human proved that it could do it just like the machine did. But unlike the real John Henry, who died from exhaustion after beating the machine ended up dying. So while I'm sad that the Wii U and eShop are closed, fuck yeah. This is John Henry 2.0.
I just hope one day Mario dies.
Anyway, we've got some conventions this week.
The Geneva Convention.
In Plymouth, Minnesota, from April 19th to 21, we have VGM Con.
What does the VGM stand for?
Video Game Media Con.
Is that true, or is that just your guess?
If I had to guess.
That's actually not a bad guess.
Thanks.
I was going to say Video Game Movie Con.
Nah, that'd be weird. Be probably like VGF, like film.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they do in Plymouth, Minnesota from April 19th to 21. All I know is acronym. I guess you're right.
There's also the Como Retro Game Convention in Columbia, Montana on April 20th.
I know what they're going to be doing at that convention.
I don't get it, but I don't think I want to.
You don't know? Hold on, April 20th?
Oh.
Yeah, I was about to say, go ask your fiance.
I didn't realize the date. I was thinking about Como RetroCon. I was like, I guess play retro games. No, they'll be feeling pretty good there. Fangia in San Diego, California, also on 4/20.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. Just looking at this list, I'm noticing a huge pattern with these dates.
Well, because they're always on weekends, and 4/20 happens to fall on a weekend this time.
Couldn't have done it any other weekend.
Well, they're always going to be this weekend. They're not going to move around just because 4/20. If anything, they'll probably do better.
That's what I'm saying.
There's also Nishi Fest in Fort Worth, Texas, from April 20th to 21st.
Also known as West Fest in Japanese. That's your fun fact for the day.
Okay, weeb. Portsmouth Anime and Gaming Con in Portsmouth, UK, from April 20th to 21st. You gonna go to the Portsmouth Anime Con? No, because you're a weeb.
I would, because I'm a weeb, but it's in the UK, so by principles alone, I can't.
Yeah, you're in Japan anyway. There's also HCLS Fan Fest in Bay St. Louis,
also known as the Hardcore Leaf Stacking Fan Fest.
I don't know if Bay St. Louis is the same thing as normal St. Louis.
I mean, I feel like it's probably the difference is one of them has a bay and the other one doesn't.
Maybe. And then there's the Niagara Video Game Swap in Ontario, Canada on April 21st.
Also known as the Ontario Video Game Swap in Niagara, Canada. Yeah,
yes.
that was not my best one.
You don't have to say something after everyone.
I know, I have free will.
Okay. Games this week. There's quite a few games coming out this week. On April 15th, we've got Life Eater for the PC.
As most people need to eat to live.
On April 16th, we've got Grounded for the PS4 and 5, Dave the Diver for the PS4 and 5.
You're going fast with these.
Well, I want to at least get through the day, because if you interrupt me after every single one, we will never finish. Kill It with Fire 2 Early Access on PC, Xbox Series X and S, and the One, and PS4 and 5. Harold Halibut for the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series S and X, and Planet of Lana on the Switch and PS5.
Grounded, it's what you wish you could do to me every time I interrupt you. Dave the Diver, where I'm diving for a new joke because I'm really looking hard to get it. Damn it, I had a really good one, but you deleted it, so I can't remember it. Kill It with Fire 2. Kill It with Fire 2. That's what I hope happens to Mario. That's about all I can have.
And then on April 18th, we've got Final Fantasy XVI DLC, The Rising Tide for the PS5, No Rest for the Wicked on PC in early access, The Crew Motorfest coming to Steam, Artificer's Tower for PC, and then Skur Ritual on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series S and X.
Not to be confused with Ritual, which is my new SoundCloud album. Be sure to check it out. Link
What
in the
was that-
description
What was
below.
that good? What was that good?
The SNL skit.
No, there was that good. This was a couple of months ago. You made a joke about what your new album was called, and I was like, "That's actually a pretty good name for an album."
I can't remember.
It was
Bold of you to
called, like,
assume.
average.
What was it?
It's called like average something or like bad. I don't remember what it was. It was really good though.
Well, if you are curious about this title and want to know more about it, make sure you tune into literally all of our previous episodes of the Game Disc podcast, in which you can then find out what this mysterious rap title was called. But yeah, regardless.
All right. Yep, that's all the games this week. We don't have a draft update. So I think with all that being said, it's time to go into our top 100 games of all time discussion.
All right. So what are we talking
Ready?
about today, Simon? Yeah.
So as the wheel decreed 2 weeks ago, we are talking about a Super Nintendo game. So we decided on Mega Man X, which is, I guess, a sequel to Mega Man. Weird spin-off.
Spin-off, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a spin-off. So as per usual, very
Spiritual
quickly, very
accessor.
briefly, yeah, it kind of is. Very quickly, very briefly, Noah, what do you like? What do you dislike? Who would you recommend it to? Spoiler free. Very quickly, very briefly, and go.
What I like, game is fun. What I don't like, this is a problem in every X game. They really shit on X, or they don't shit on him, but pretty much every X game revolves around Man. Zero is so cool. When the game is called Mega Man X.
Wait, who'd you recommend it to?
Oh, who would I recommend it to? I'd recommend it to people that want a good side scroller. It's a really solid side scroller. It was really unique for the time, and we're now starting to get a lot of games that take heavy inspiration from it, and there's a very good reason for that.
Yeah, I agree. I like that it is very fast-paced. I feel like it was kind of one of those first... Like, obviously, Contra was pretty fast-paced too, but I feel like this was like very different. It was like a methodical fast-paced for a platformer. What I don't like, because there's only 6 like robot masters or whatever they're called in this, whereas all the other ones had 8. So I kind of miss it there. I wish there was more. I wish there was more robot masters with some new abilities, and I would recommend this to pretty much anybody who likes side-scrolling kind of platformer action games. With all that being said, if you don't want to hear spoilers for Mega Man X, I guess tune in next week because we're going to go deep into spoilers for Mega Man X. So I played through kind of all the Mega Man games for the first time, like relatively recently, like when they started coming out with those Legacy collections. So when I played like X from start to finish, I had just played Mega Man like 1 through 6 kind of in a row. And I think probably the coolest thing about Mega Man X is how it is totally its own take on Mega Man, but it stayed like a Mega Man game. Like the way, if you have played the classic Nintendo Mega Man games, you can pick up X very quickly. The idea is the same. You are shooting and jumping, killing bosses, taking their abilities, and using those to fight other bosses to get their abilities and so on. But what's cool is even though what you're doing is the same, it feels completely different and completely changes the game.
The best way to describe it is they wanted to create a next gen at the time Mega Man game, and
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
and I think it shows not just in, like I talked about with the gameplay, but also with how it looks. Like you can look like, I think Mega Man X is kind of one of the best like sprite looking games. I don't know if is that like an unreasonable take.
I mean, it's definitely not a common one. Like usually when it comes to sprites, people consider like a lot of fighting games to be really good, but
Well, but those are
I mean,
different because you've only got 2 on screen at a time.
that's a fair point. I mean, I really love the sprites in like Mega Man X4. Yeah, I know we're talking about X1, but I mean, yeah, the sprites are really good looking, but even more important than the graphics, I think we need to talk about the art direction of the game, because I think that's something that really helped solidify that as the next gen Mega Man title, instead of just being like, oh yeah, it's just let's change the gameplay. They gave the game a new art direction, new atmosphere, new identity, and I think that that is something that also really helped move it to the SNES. It was a little edgier, but they made it work really well.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Kind of like how the one of the things that like people say Harry Potter had staying power was because the series kind of grew up with its audience. I feel like in a way Mega Man did that also, where people who were playing Mega Man when they were kids are now like in their preteens or even their teenage years, and so they made a Mega Man game kind of for those people. Because obviously it's not super adult, but it's definitely darker than
the
fighting
M-rated
Dr.
Mega
Wily.
Man title we've been waiting for.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. I think that you're right. Where I mean, the game starts off with you kind of running through like a destroyed city.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows, oh, this is something. This is Mega Man. It's instantly recognizable as Mega Man, but this is something new.
Yeah, and that was something we saw a lot with the SNES. It was in the 90s, so things were edgier. Comparing Contra 4, or was it Super Contra, compared to the original Contra, it was a lot more like dark and grim. It was very common for non-Nintendo games that made it to the SNES to take on a more mature atmosphere. And I think Mega Man did it really well by keeping it familiar and iconic, but also just making it a bit edgier. And it worked, I think.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody will say it didn't work, honestly.
No, I mean, I think that if anybody who has a interest in older games, I think could pick this up and play it pretty easily. I mean, the big buttons are shoot, jump, and dash, mostly dash, and it's instantly like it just feels good to play. And I think the dash is kind of this game's biggest win.
Yes,
kind of like how
definitely.
Mega Man kind of did a couple of small things to evolve, like allowing the charge shot. I think the dash is probably the best change to Mega Man, period. Like obviously the charge shot is like a really big deal, but just that the extra mobility, not just on the ground to kind of like dodge attacks, but also in the air just to like do some cool like maneuvers, like jumping up and dashing backwards into a wall to like jump up and dash forward. It really opened up. It kind of makes the original Mega Man games feel a little clunky by comparison.
Well,
those were some of the best platformers on the original Nintendo.
Well, that was something I was going to say was, so the original Mega Man games, they were good. They're really good, and you still play them, they're good. But the thing that's important is the Mega Man original baseline games, they did not end after the introduction of X. So, like, for example, I know Mega Man 8 was on the PlayStation, and I feels like playing 8, sure, the game looks really nice, but it feels like from a gameplay perspective, X1 is more advanced, and that was an SNES game. And so that was the thing. It was a very natural evolution of the Mega Man games.
Yeah, that's I think the best way to put it. If there's one thing that it didn't do as well as the original Mega Man games, I don't think the music is as good. But I think it's a little hard to hold that against it because the original Mega Man games have some of the best music on the Nintendo console, and the X music isn't bad by any means. But
the
there's
first
nothing
stage
quite
is iconic.
Yeah, but I don't think there's anything as. But even the first stage of X, I don't think there's anything as. I don't think that has anything on like Mega Man 2's intro screen or even the Dr. Wily song.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And because, like I'm saying, like Mega Man X, the intro stage is iconic. The da na na now, that one's great. But
But
other
I still
than
think
that,
2 is. I think 2 is more
yeah,
recognizable. Either
yeah,
I think the
and
intro
I
screen
don't
of 2.
and I don't know any other songs in X that they're all good, but I can't really think of any off the top of my head at the
Yeah,
moment.
like I've turned on like just like if I'm working or writing or something, I've turned on the Mega Man 2 soundtrack and just listened to
Hmm.
it all the way through. I've never done that with X,
Hmm. Yeah,
just
no, that's
because
fair.
I don't think again, not that the music is bad, but I
Hmm.
think that is one area that it is not as good.
As good as the other ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. But I feel like Mega Man X2, or sorry, Mega Man 2 has some incredibly iconic music. So
No,
is it a
that's my point.
downgrade? Yeah.
That's my point. It's kind of unfair
Yep.
to hold it up to those standards because you're
Standards.
comparing, yeah, you're comparing really really good music to some of the best music.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
the other thing I kind of want to mention up is the bosses. I think while I kind of mentioned I was disappointed there was only 6, I think the bosses in this game are really good.
Hmm.
Obviously, a Mega Man game is nothing without its bosses, and
Yeah.
this mostly due to the mobility offered by the dash and wall jump, you get just some takes on bosses that just wouldn't be possible in
Hmm.
a normal Mega Man game.
Hmm.
I mean, I can't remember his name, but the bird. Um, I mean, that boss just could not work in Mega Man because he can kind of only shoot side to side, whereas in X, because you do have a little bit more, not just mobility in terms of jumping around, but also you can kind of angle your gun a little bit. Yeah, it just offers a whole different.
Was it Storm Eagle?
Yes, yeah. It was Storm Eagle.
Yeah,
Um,
and
yeah, you
and
can
I
like
feel
leap
like
over the little tornadoes he fires and kind of take pot shots. Whereas Mega Man, you are just like, okay, I've got to just ride this out. X is like it's like a song and dance. Like you're kind of dashing back
Mhm.
and forth. You're jumping over their moves, trying to get shots when you can. Like it feels like these two, yeah, just machines
Yeah,
just going at it. It
yeah,
feels it. I feel like that is what when kids were playing Mega Man, they
mhm,
were expecting like how do I want to phrase it? As they were watching the gameplay of Mega Man 1, kind of the slow moving battles,
mhm.
they were expecting it to look like Mega Man X, and then X
Well,
actually made the battles look like that.
I think yeah, it's like when you played Final Fantasy VII, it's like there's the gameplay, and then there was like the Advent Children, and it's like this is how the fights like are actually going, and
Actually,
everybody's
yeah.
flying around doing all this crazy stuff, and then when you played the game on the PlayStation 1, it was just okay, this person attacks, now this person attacks. And then in Final Fantasy, like the remakes games, they made it more like, okay, this is how the fights are actually looking. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's what X did. It was like
That's a
in
much
the
better
first
way to
game,
put
it
it than
was
what I was trying to say.
yeah. So it pretty much it was like there's a game and there's only so much you can do, but X kind of made the imagination of what people thought the fights looked like more closer to what their imagination was. The point
Yeah.
of yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying. I think also kind of introducing some new villains as Sigma. Obviously, it wouldn't really make sense to use Dr. Wily.
I'm the Sigma.
You are the Sigma.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
it wouldn't really make sense to use
Do you
Dr.
know how
Wily.
much crypto money I have, Simon? Right now? Do you know how much?
No, I don't.
0, because they all dropped. But do you know how many stocks I have?
Also 0.
No, I got I think 1 for McDonald's. It was a birthday present. But that stock is worth a lot of money.
McDonald's stock is actually worth a decent amount of money.
Hell yeah, I know that because I'm the Sigma.
McDonald's stock. $267.
And I doubled that to double the amount of money that's worth. That's called play. Yeah, that's called playing the portfolio. But regardless, we're not going to talk about why I'm the Sigma and you are the Beta.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about your poor financial decisions. I think Sigma's a cool bad guy. Obviously, the game takes place very far in the future.
Best. Like, all the other bad guys and betas.
I understood. I think I got it.
Just making sure all the Betoids out there knew what the joke was.
No. I can't do this.
Would you say that these jokes are vile?
Yes. They are vile.
Okay.
And yes, I see what you did there.
Yeah, that was good.
You say something. I'm done.
All right, so
a lot of people say that crypto's not the future.
All right,
no. All right, going back to Mega Man. Yeah, so two things that you didn't mention that I want to talk about. One, the armors in the game were really cool. So something that is really closely tied to the X series is they were like hidden capsules, and you were able to find them, and they would grant you a certain ability. So, like, one of them, I can't remember what they were. Like, one of them I know was just simple, it increased your health or reduced damage. One of them was, like, I think upgraded your charge shot, whereas previously the maximum was blue, the maximum in this one became red. And I thought that was a really cool way of increasing the game's replayability and also rewarding exploration, because it showed, hey, this isn't just get from point A to B. If you walk around and are willing to experiment, you can get some really cool upgrades.
Yeah, so here they all are. So there's the flip parts, which enables the dash function, which I had totally forgotten that the dash was only available by finding the feat. That is wild, because that just seems like such an integral part of that game.
Yeah.
There's the body part, which reduces all damage by 50%. The arm part, which allows X to charge up to a third level and fires a more powerful charge shot. And then he can also get charge shots of special weapons.
Yeah.
And then the head part, which allows him to jump into certain blocks to destroy them with a headbutt, and is protected from any rocks falling onto his head.
Yeah. And
a Hadoken.
I think... Oh, yeah, and the Hadoken was like the super secret hidden one that killed.
It was just like a fun one.
Yeah, and that was it killed anything in one hit, even bosses, if I'm not mistaken. And the cool thing too is also, I believe on the game's cover he has the armor, and
he does.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of cool, because then it might make you ask questions like, how come you look so different on the cover than in the game? It's like, oh, there's actually a reason for that.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it kind of, I mean, this is back before, we had the internet where you could just look up everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, how do you, people might start looking into, well, how do you find this armor that is on the cover? How do you get the, the armor that's on the cover? Because I started the game and he's blue, but he's white on the cover.
You gotta buy the Nintendo Power.
Yeah, you have to, or you have to buy the Ubisoft Gold Edition for $130.
And something else that I also want to mention is, so something that's kind of a flaw, in my opinion, with the X series is X kind of oftentimes seems like he's taken a back seat to Zero. And as a kid, I was like, yeah, Zero's the coolest. But now growing up, I'm like, yeah, like X is pretty cool too. I wish that they gave him some of that attention. And at the very beginning of the game is, you do this level, you fight the boss who's Vile. That's why I mentioned it earlier, for those of you who don't know. And you fight him, you lose, Zero comes in, saves you. Then X is like, man, Zero, you're so cool. Do you think one day I'll be a good Maverick Hunter like you? He was like, yeah, I think so. Which, it's something I don't really like, but at the time, I do think it was a really cool way of showing, like, hey, we have, like, there's we're actually having dialogue, we're having a story that we're telling the story in the game instead of just in the opening and ending cutscenes. And I thought that that was a really cool way of also showing it's advancing. Obviously, game stories have gotten more advanced as game development has gone on, and so I thought that was another way of showing that this was a next gen game.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has more of a story than the original Mega Man games, and it's definitely, it's not The Last of Us, and even compared to some of the games we were getting on the Super Nintendo, like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI, the story isn't that. But you're right; it was a step up from what we were getting on the NES.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, by the end of the day, this was a platformer. Usually, the story was mostly just there to give you an excuse to play the game, but now they were actually giving you the story inside of the game as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. Was there anything else you kind of wanted to say about Mega Man X?
Not really. No, not really.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with wrapping it up. Do you think it should go on the list?
Yeah, I'd say maybe not a super high number, but I think that it is a very good example of how a game should make the transition from next gen to previous gen in an era that I feel like young people often kind of start blending it together, like the pre 3D era. So, yeah, I think that definitely should be put on the list somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. I think Mega Man X should be. I was thinking like 85.
Yeah, I was thinking that sounds about right, like somewhere in the 80s, 70s ish.
Yeah, we've got 85.
So yeah, 85. Yep, 85 sounds good.
Cool. All right. Mega Man X is above Alipi Agents / Osu Tatakai Uenden, which is at number 90. Cool. Okay. So, congrats to Mega Man X. You are one of the top 100 games of all time. All right, now before we get out of here, what have you been playing?
I've been playing too much lately.
You have or have not?
I have. I
cool.
really not cool. It's bad. I'm like, man, I'm wasting so much time just playing games. I could be doing something like actually productive. But regardless, I've been playing a lot of Armored Core. I beat the game twice, so I'm now on my third and final playthrough. For those of you who don't know, Armored Core, the game has 3 endings, and you can only unlock the third ending on your third playthrough. So that's what I'm doing right now. I was playing Immortals of Avium. I really like the game, but I was like, you know what, I'm playing way too many games these days. Like I need to cut back, so I deleted it. I'll probably beat it eventually, but it's something that's like, okay, we'll put a pin on this for now. And then I've also been getting back into Street Fighter 6 a lot. So,
what are you thinking about Armored Core?
It's fun. I'm enjoying it. There are some missions that can be very frustrating if you don't know how to beat. I did one mission that is only available on your third playthrough, and it was very frustrating, and pretty much, yeah, I just went online. People were like, oh, just include, like, make sure that you have 2 missiles on your shoulders, and then you use hand missiles as well.
Oh, was it the one where you have to, like, fight, like, a small army on the ground, and there's, like, the wheel guys?
Yeah, it was the one.
Yeah, that one was rough.
One of the best mission in the game is, it's called, like, destroy the weaponized mining ship or something like that. And pretty much what you do, you take out one of its legs, it falls, and then you can fly on top of it, and you just take out the generators. So on your third playthrough, you have a mission, and it's escort that ship. And when you get there, it's already destroyed. So you have to fight like a bunch of really fast machines. And yeah, so I tried several different combinations, and then I looked it up. The other mission in the game that was pretty weak is one where you just have to fight a ton of enemies and then a boss at the end, which you pretty much always run out of ammo. So, yeah, but I'm enjoying it. It's fun.
Yeah, good. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing. Oh, was there anything else you've been playing, or just Street Fighter and
Nope,
Armored
just
Core?
that. Just
Cool.
pretty much Street Fighter Armored Core, and I used to play a lot of Immortals of Avium, but not anymore.
Cool. Yeah, so I wrapped up. I haven't actually been playing too much. I got to like the final month of Persona 3, but then when my fiance got sick, I haven't really touched it at all in the past couple weeks. So I'm hoping to beat that this coming weekend because I'm close. I've been playing. I so mostly on my Switch. I did wrap up Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. That game is so cool. I was kind of playing it and I really liked it, and then I kind of started to slow down, and I was like, oh, maybe this game's a little too long. But then I got a couple of upgrades, which kind of opened up the whole game, and then I just loved it from the end. It's a really cool game. The bosses are all so different, but so much fun. If I have one complaint, it's that I think every boss took me multiple tries except the last one. I beat it on my first try, so it did feel like a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like by that point I was so powerful I didn't have to learn any strategies. I could kind of just spam, but it was fine because the rest of the game was just so good. And so now, since I wrapped that up, I am playing Unicorn Overlord, which I talked a little bit about when I first played the demo, which was like 7 hours long. Now I'm like 20 hours in, and I'm really enjoying it. It's really fun to kind of build different classes or different units and kind of fill them so that all their weaknesses are covered and just see kind of the most indestructible beastly unit you can make. If I have one complaint, it's that the beginning of the game, the time limit feels very limiting. It doesn't allow a whole lot of like experimentation, and that's kind of when you need the most because you're still learning the game. It felt like in those first couple of hours I was really trying to figure, like, I was always pushing against the time limit, and now it doesn't even matter. And I feel like it maybe should have been reversed, like have a little bit more open-ended time limit later on, once you've kind of mastered the game. But overall,
So
it's
kind
great.
of like in Resident Evil 2, like with Mr. X, it's like first when you first go to a new area, you can free to explore, and then once you kind of are familiar, Mr. X starts chasing you. You wish it was kind of similar.
I mean, it's a little bit different just because of the nature of the game. So yeah, kind of just basically once you got because for me, I haven't played a whole lot of tactics games. So I'm trying to kind of figure out how this game works, and you're just given a ton of information about how different classes, weaknesses, and strengths. So it's hard to kind of juggle all those things and figure out what they're good against and bad against. And it's even harder when the matches go so fast. But once you have more units and your classes are generally better equipped, for comparison, there was quite a few missions in the early hours where I was right up against the time limit, like a couple of extra seconds that I've lost. Now I routinely beat missions with like half the time limit left. So that's really my only complaint. And the story is a little simple, but it's kind of nice. It's a good game to play where it's just kind of relaxing, and I like playing it. But so yeah, that's it. That one should keep me occupied for a while because it is a pretty long game. But we'll see. I'm actually going through it a lot faster than I expected. But all right, Noah, what are you gonna plug this week?
So like oh man, I don't know how like I'm going to introduce this thing. So Simon, let me ask you this.
Oh,
How often do you look at me doing something cool and just say, "Damn"?
like how many times in our life?
Like how often?
Um, I don't know, probably like once every 8 years or so.
Yeah, so there is one guy whose friend who was so cool, his friend had to do it every day for a week, and that is my boy Daniel, also known as Damn Daniel. Folks, Damn Daniel, he's back at it again with the white vans. Make sure that you relive the iconic Vine series at any point in time.
So is he doing anything new, or you're saying go look at the old ones that have been around for like?
Yeah, just watch the the old Vines. Yeah, I'm plugging the Damn Daniel Vines. What do you think Damn Daniel's up to these days?
I don't know. Probably doing cool stuff.
Also, who do you think would win in a fight? Damn Daniel or the guy who you had to do it to him?
Probably damn Daniel.
I'd hope so.
Guy who knows you had to do it to him.
Holy crap! He was in Time Magazine 30 Most Influential People on the Internet.
Thank you to Pecan Pie on Upbeat for our intro and outro songs. Thank you to Zach Robinson for our logo. If you liked this, please follow and or subscribe and consider leaving a rating and review so more people can find us. You can find other episodes of this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. No more Google Podcast. If you want to send us an email, you can do so at gamedisc.podcast@gmail.com and we will read it on the air. You can send us suggestions, questions, or anything you would like. And with that, we will... Oh, no!
What?
I forgot to spin the wheel!
Oh, you nincompoop. Well, I guess we're gonna have a post-credits scene, aren't we?
No, I'm just gonna repeat the... If I click this button, will it repeat? Yep, alright. We're just gonna keep playing the music while I get this wheel up.
If you want to, actually, what we could do is,
That's okay. I've got the wheel up.
Alrighty then.
I'll let the music loop.
Alrighty then. Alright. Well, I guess
I guess we're doing a Super Nintendo, Genesis, PC, and arcade again. Let's see. Of those, what platform are we doing? We're doing an arcade game from the SNES Genesis era. So, right. Noah, I will probably have to defer that one to you.
Alrighty then. Go ahead and we'll look into that.
Now we'll just wait.
Yeah, I mean that's what it seems like. This is a fun thing. Hey, well, while we're waiting, can I start talking about some of my crypto investments?
You've got 27 seconds left, and I'm stopping this as soon as the song is done.
Okay. Check it.
20 seconds
Digital,
left.
Currency, future, internet, blockchain. What do all of these things have in common? All of them are the guaranteed path to financial success in the future. Now, some of you may be wondering,